Thank you so much. It's great to be in a community of practitioners. It's a lovely venue. It's a great event. So Christopher, Sydney, thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this effort. Who am I? I'm Yves Salti. I've been in the tech industry for 25 plus years, in the AI space for 10 plus years. Worked in 2 of the large hyperscalers, who shall not be named because they did not sponsor. So I came here by myself, but I'm in a team that is called Applied AI Engineering, which basically means that we work with customers and partners to help them integrate AI capabilities into the solutions that they're building, very similar to what you are all doing as well. So over the years, what I did is I developed kind of like, a couple of best practices so that we can, mitigate some risks and we can accelerate things. You might already be doing a lot of this or most of this. If so, amazing, great. I have more information because obviously we won't have time to go through a lot of the details, but I'll be here for the next couple of days and I'd love to talk about them. So without further ado, I want to start with number 1, right? A lot of times you don't have to be a developer or a data scientist to start with AI. For example, in my team, half of our engineers are working to integrate AI capabilities in a lot of the first-party products that we're building. So in most cases, whether you are using a summarization service, a translation service through kind of like, the CRM or any other productivity tool that you're using, the AI is already in. Plus, there is a plethora of copilots. There is a copilot for everything now. Again, you can start with a low-code, no-code type of environment and then transfer your work into a pro-code platform. Okay, so the next one is choosing the right AI model, which is harder than it sounds. The good news and the bad news is that there are a lot of them. Throughout kind of like, the past decade plus, we have been, training our own AI models. These are the traditional vision, language, speech AI models. In a lot of cases, if you have a simple use case, you might not need an LLM. So this might work really, really well. They're very inexpensive. They're very accurate. So I highly recommend them. Of course, a couple of years ago or 3 years ago, the world changed because generative AI became a thing and all the LLMs came into the forefront. However, LLMs are becoming SLMs, right? So they're becoming smaller, much more efficient. You don't need a lot of capacity to run them. So that kind of like levels the playing field, and it helps you as practitioners to really use the latest without breaking the bank. Also, there is a new category that we developed in our research side that it's open source as well, which is the small language models. These ones are interesting because they can run in a mobile, they can run offline, so really, really great for edge case and scenarios. And they're also trained in industry-specific data sets, which might work for the sector that you might be in. And of course, there is like a plethora of others in the open source world. So as I said, you can definitely use, the traditional ones. What we see now with LLMs is that they're becoming multimodal as well, which is really interesting because this really increases the type of use cases and how rich the interaction can be. So let's imagine that we own this amazing villa and we want to use the LLM to create a marketing content, to advertise it. It does a pretty good job. It understands kind of like it reads the image and the tone is right. But also in a more serious note, these LLMs, because of the multi-modality, they can identify any anomalies, like in this case, in this flooding situation where the water is coming from. And also they make a call or a recommendation whether to notify the authorities. And it works great with videos as well. So again, it really enhances the way you interact with an LLM. And of course, there is a plethora of others, so I think AI models are being commoditized, if I may say it. And in most cases, the customers that we work with use a combination of a lot of them. So you might be using 2 or 3 in order to kind of like, action whatever use case you have. Like, for example, in a contact center scenario, you might have the text-to-speech, or actually the speech to text to transcribe calls, and then you might use kind of like an indexer and also an LLM to summarize or drive the, any other recommendations. The next thing that, we're seeing great advancements is agentic AI. So at the core of it, because I know there are a lot of different definitions of what an AI agent is, I want to point out that agentic AI is not fully autonomous yet. Others might say that it is. I don't think it is at this point. It's still a tool, and the human is in the center of the experience. At the very core, an AI agent is rooted on the data sets that you have. So, in your own storage, in your own kind of license data. And this is where the richness of the experience comes. And its brain is the LLM. So, whether you use multimodal LLMs or whether you use the reasoning ones. And to be honest, now we'll probably going to see a combination of both in the next generation of AI models. This is kind of like, what an AI agent is. It helps you connect a lot of these different workflows, and you can use a lot of open source tools like semantic kernel or AutoGen to connect a couple of different agents together. The use cases vary across the board. What we see so far, because this is kind of like, early stage, is a lot of use cases in the travel industry where you have a lot of different steps where you have to go and check, the airlines or schedules, traffic, someone's calendar, employee onboarding in the HR side, customer support for sure, and others. Okay. I'm going to move us quickly along. Make sure the models that you're using are enterprise ready. You might not be working with an enterprise, with a large company, but I truly think that some of these pieces are essential. You want to make sure that you manage this AI model like any other cloud service. So you need to make sure that you assign users and access to particular groups. It needs to scale, it needs to be reliable, there needs to be uptime. So all of these things that we might take for granted in the cloud, we should expect from the AI capabilities as well. And of course, I'm preaching to the choir because it's Europe and you guys take privacy very seriously. Where I live right now, it's kind of like a hit or miss. So I always point it out. Make sure that you know where your data is going. Who is going to use it? Are they going to train future AI models with it? Are they going to share it with a third party? Again, a lot of wild things are happening across the Atlantic, so we have to be vigilant. Also, responsible AI is a key common responsibility that we have, both on our end as a hyperscaler and also on your end on the receiving side. We started this work actually 10 years ago where I met, and I've been in other companies that, they prioritize this less. But we developed a set of practices and principles primarily for internal teams. So we wanted to make sure that the product teams, the engineering teams, the research teams had a common code of excellence in how we were training these AI models and how we were able to detect and remove bias, how we were able to be more transparent, to increase the traceability and so forth and so on. And we make this available so you can go out and get this and make them your own and customize them. But even more exciting for the engineering side is the tools that we developed. And these are free tools. We don't make any money out of this, right? Which allow you to compare and contrast and benchmark different AI models based on fluency, accuracy, coherence, and other elements. This will help you kind of like pick the right tool for the job. And then the other thing that is really, really dear to my heart is the content safety one, which safeguards the experience, both for the user and for anybody who is interacting with this AI capability, both on the input and the completion side. So it flags for language around hate, self-harm, violence. You can switch it off if you're in the cyber security or the gaming industry. And also you can customize it with your own terms. And I think this is a great way to really safeguard the experience overall. Okay, number 5, and this is, a lot of people get it wrong, believe it or not. A lot of times we do AI for the sake of AI because it's cool, because our CEO wants us to have an AI strategy, because our board is demanding to do something with AI. We need to start with the pain first. It's really, really essential. And I know it sounds like, really motherhood and apple pie, but you would be amazed how many people get it wrong. We need to make sure with what's broken, what takes a lot of time, what takes a lot of resources, what it's not optimized, what it's not automated. Start there, because this will yield, the faster and bigger ROI. And you can see kind of like this is an eye chart, but I included it because it gives you an idea of what others are working with. These are some of the top use cases that we see working with customers across different industries and different countries. But if you have others, I would love to learn about them, so I'll be here all day. And it's really important as we talk about AI, especially as we start with early projects, to really communicate the business impact and make sure that we have the right KPIs, the type of ROI to prove that that this thing works and it's not just tech for the sake of tech. Okay, and number 6. We're getting there. So in most cases, these AI models, as great as they are, they won't do what you want them to do right off the box, right? So in most cases, you will have to customize them. So one misconception that I see over and over again, people jump right into the far right side and is it far right? Yeah, the far right side, into fine-tuning, which you need a lot of data to do. You need a lot of expertise, and it takes a lot of time, and it's an iterative process, so you probably need to do it a couple of times at least to get it right. So I know I'm preaching to the choir again, but prompt engineering is your friend. You can do a lot of different things. You can be very creative. You can also ground it with your own documents, your own information. If this doesn't work, then of course RAG is the next step, especially for real-time information. And only if you must, and you have no other choice, I would recommend the fine-tuning. Again, you need to have a lot of pieces in place, and you need to also have the cultural shift that it's not going to work right the first time in most cases. So you have to have that experimentation DNA, if you will. Okay. Number 7 is something that, I personally struggle with it too. Because as other speakers mentioned, this is an area that is developing really rapidly, is evolving really fast. From an engineering standpoint, we went from semester planning to agile planning. So basically every week we ship something new. And, we are challenged, we're all challenged to keeping up and making sure that, we are aware of what's coming up and, what we need to pick for what we're building. Again, ignore the logo here. Christian, don't come after me. I couldn't scrap all the logos out of the presentations, but The point here is that, I highly recommend micro-credentialing here. There are easy ways, fast ways, LinkedIn, Coursera. Everybody has a lot of, courses there. Some of them lead to certifications. It's really, really keen. Like, you can't say, oh, I've done it like 4 years ago, I'm done, It's an ongoing process, and I know it's a challenge, but I highly recommend that, because the more you know, the more you can shape the future of how this will look like. And the last one, and this is why I love events like this, is learning from others. Obviously, I included a couple of examples from customers that we work with. We worked with CarMax. We can, buy your used car online in the US. And we helped them basically personalize the marketing campaigns that they were doing. They were sitting on tons and years of customer feedback, information that they wanted to use to customize the campaigns that they were using. So now with, the LLM and, the overall AI capabilities, they were able to do this. And we didn't really eliminate the marketing team. We made the team much more efficient. Similarly, we work with Nationale Nederlanden. Yes, I'm there. Nationale Nederlanden, and we help them be much more customer-centric, making sure that they process claims from the insurance company much faster using the document intelligence. And my favorite and creepiest one is from our partner in New Zealand called Soul Machines. I'm not sure if you know them. Anyway, so they have these digital avatars that they use in contact center AI as well, and they're using our LLMs to detect the sentiment of the conversation real time so that they can be more empathetic, which is amazing and creepy at the same time. So anyway, I want to thank you for your time, and I'd love to hear about your best practices.
Thank you so much, Eve.
Thanks.
Very nice presentation. I also think you have what I call a really nice human TTS, like a very nice voice for presenting. And I think you made a very nice point. Thank you very much for that. Like also calling out to Europe to take their place in this whole game, because I think like the tools are there, and there's enough competition so that these tools can be used at reasonable prices, but it's actually what we make out of them. And the thing you hinted at, like what we also talked about, using them responsibly. This is actually, in the end, and I think you had some nice examples, what creates the business value, right? And there's no reason Europe cannot be a leading force in that area. And I also really liked when you said, well, it's about us recognizing, well, we're probably using AI. Well, all the people in this room probably are using it a lot, but in general, a lot of people might be using it already. However, I think we still, and I do believe, big companies like yours have a special responsibility there. There's a lot of, and you mentioned that there's a lot of education that is still needed to take the general society along on that journey. Just quick story, and then we'll move on. I had a nice encounter in our hotel where we had yesterday the speakers dinner. I talked at breakfast. I talked to one of the waitresses and I said, "Are you using AI in any way?" No. That's from my husband. He's doing this tech stuff. And then I told her, well, like have you heard of ChatGPT, Perplexity? No, I didn't. And I explained to her what it is. It's like you just chat with it as a friend. And I said, like, well, just let me give you an example. I was going with my 4-year-old daughter to the zoo 2 weeks ago, and I prompted the model and said, I'm going to go with my 4-year-old. I'm going to type in just names of animals. You give me 3 bullet points of nice stories about that animal, which are suitable for a 4-year-old. And Daddy was shining, for that visit. Guess what her answer was? So you've been cheating. So, like, we need to change that perception, right, of like, this is cheating. Even for my own team, we had people that's like, well, I cannot just use that like that. That's cheating. I should do really work, But so there is a lot to do, and thanks so much for that great presentation.